I have an enormous file full of rejections because if I was working for 12 years and I got a lot of rejections, which means that I was sending things out. And I remember at one point my older sister gave me some wonderful advice. She said, because she used to be in marketing, and she said, instead of thinking about trying to collect acceptances, and therefore rejections are negative, try to go out there and collect 100 rejections. If you try to get 100 rejections, you'll probably get 2 or 3 acceptances along the way. And that's a very business way to look at it. And it's actually very true. And eventually I started to have my stories picked up, but really it was about 6 years into my career. So...
Well, enough about rejections for now. I don't want to get on that subject.
No, but I guess it's sort of good because, and you're right, it took an enormous emotional toll on me. However, it's who I am. It's who I am. Like, I was somebody who failed a lot. Like, I failed a bar exam. And when you fail the bar exam and you have a job at a corporate firm, everybody knows that you failed. And I remember thinking, gosh, like, can I survive this? And you know what? You do. You do survive it.
So what was there any big break, or was it a series of small breaks?
I don't think I got any really big breaks. I feel consistently blessed as a person. I do. However, it's been an accretion of small things.
Okay, Free Food for Millionaires ends on an ambiguous but hopeful note. So can you tell us, is this the last we'll see of Casey Hahn?
I think so. I'm not sure. I've actually had a lot of people ask me about a sequel, but I think that I'm perfectly happy where the book is right now in terms of how it ends. And it was really important for me. I'm not giving anything away, but to have a Korean American man and a Korean American woman together creating a new world. The last image in the book you'll see, and I'm not giving anything away, is you'll have Unu, my Korean American male character, draw a tree, and then Casey, who is following, and she draws flowers and grass. I wanted to create the sense of creating Eden. Can fallen people create a new Eden together? And to me, that was how I imagined the new world.
That's lovely. So, okay, let me, at this point, let me give my review or endorsement or whatever you want to call it.
All right.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything. You can pump your fists in the air if you want, though. Okay, so I read this book as soon as it came out last year. William and I, we've been doing this stuff for quite a long time, working with the community. And really, when any notable book by someone with an Asian surname comes out, or if a movie made by an Asian American comes out, I'm first to read the book and to watch the movie. And I've seen and read so many of these that it takes me only a few pages or a few minutes to decide if the thing's any good. So with Free Food for Millionaires, it took me only a few pages before I realized I was reading one of the best novels of the year. I mean that unqualified. And if I had to categorize it as Asian American lit, quote unquote, I'd say it was one of the 2 best works last year. The other one being Adrian Tomina's Shortcomings, a graphic novel. And I think Min Jin's book and Adrian's book, they really show, they give good indications of where Asian American literature is going these days, if there is such a thing. They're redefining it, and by that I mean they're really inverting the whole definition. It's no longer Asian American literature. It's not literature about being Asian American, and being Asian American doesn't inform all the choices made by characters in these books. But neither does it deny that the characters are Asian American, and sometimes that affects what happens in the books. It affects their lives. It affects how their lives play out. It affects how they're viewed. It affects, to some extent, it affects how they interact with the world. But it is a small element of who they are. They're very complex people, and the Asian American part of their personality is not stamped on their forehead. It's just they're rich, nuanced, multifaceted people, and the Asian Americanness is just one of those facets. So I would say it's, as I said, once again, this is not Asian American literature. I see it. It's literature written by Asian Americans, and it's literature the way it was meant to be written. That's my take.
Albert, thank you.
You're welcome.
That means a lot to me. It means a lot to me that you say those things, because I wanted so, well, if you look at the dedication, I wrote the book for my parents and my sisters, and I really wanted so much for Asian Americans to feel reflected and seen in the widest dimension. And I'm a very political person, and I've done a lot of organizing when I was younger, and I think that what we really want more than anything is not to be angry or to be up in arms or to be political. Actually, what we really want is to be human. That's what we really want. And I think humanity needs art, little bits of art here and there. And I think that was my little contribution. But to have your affirmation means a lot. Thank you.
No problem at all.
I feel that I haven't read the whole thing, by the way. I only got to halfway through it. But the humanitarian aspect of it and like seeing people's flaws and they're real people, it is so abundantly clear to me. But that said, I can see a typical angry Asian guy, which Albert, you and I know and love, a lot of them.
I love them too.
I can totally see this reading, like, say, the first 20 pages, 30 pages, seeing how the relationships unfold in just that small amount and seeing, oh, how come it's another Asian guy who, like, screws up his marriage or something like that? Oh, he has to be the guy who gets an STD and infects his wife, you know. And that's such a simplistic way of looking at it.
But also, Dr. Shim is probably the best character in the book. He's a Korean American man who is absolutely saintly. And also, I'm married to an Asian guy, and I know Asian men. I like them. I think they're just as complicated as Asian American women. I think all these things are necessary.
Yeah, you just got to get through it.
Casey can be such a pill. So when you see Asian American guys in this character who aren't behaving perfectly, the main character behaves very badly all the time.
You know what I was thinking, Min Jin? I was thinking your novel is being read around the world. So you're really defining what it means to be Asian American for these people who have never met an Asian American. I mean, what do you think of that responsibility? Or is it one?
I'm very humbled by it. And I feel very honored by it. And when people say to me that they think they understand Koreans better, I think, I hope so. In the same way, like, let's say I read a book by Chinua Achebe and I think, oh, I understand an African person a little better. Perhaps. You know, and that's the thing that we really want. We want to reach a better understanding. Like, I think this talk show, for example, we are trying to understand each other better. It's not just to think that we're right and to have contempt for people who don't agree with us. That wouldn't be necessarily a better way to create civilization.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Definitely not.
I think if we want to have a better civilization, we have to heal the brokenness. And there is a lot of brokenness.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll let Min Jin wrap this up by reading from her novel, Free Food for Millionaires.
This is a section in which we have Ted Kim, who is unqualifiedly my favorite character in this book. He has left his wife Ella for a white woman, Delia, who is a very good person, despite the fact that she is fairly promiscuous, or she was promiscuous, and she falls deeply in love with Ted. Ted's father, who was a cannery worker, has died. And Ted goes back to Anchorage, Alaska, and he faces his mother. And his mother is very, very tough with him. And this is a very important scene for me because I think this is when people start to really like Ted. We are now in Anchorage in Ted's childhood home. You left Ella for that girl? For that girl? You must be crazy. Ted's mother muttered to herself in Korean. What did Ella do to you? Nothing, Ted said. We just don't love each other anymore. No, Teddy, I know Ella loves you. She's a good girl. She doesn't stop loving you just because you did something bad. Nobody just stops loving. That's the stupidest thing to say.